So today we're going to talk about something called Japan's invisible contract. It's this unwritten set of rules that really affects every single foreigner living in the country, and a lot of them don't even know it exists.
You see, after some recent elections, the ground has kind of shifted. Japan has started to quietly rewrite its expectations for foreigners. And what that means is, if you live here, you're already part of a deal you never actually agreed to.
And just to be super clear, this isn't about politics. We're not taking sides here. What we are doing is looking at the mechanics of it all. You know, how the actual foundation of the rules can change right under your feet, usually without anyone even really talking about it.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. A quiet shift has started, and it's changing the whole atmosphere for foreign residents.
The whole national conversation is different now. We're seeing this Japanese-first kind of language become more mainstream. There's a much bigger emphasis on social order, more talk about the supposed cost of foreigners, and it's all wrapped up in this big push to make government administration more efficient.
But here's the really crucial part. None of this is coming from laws that say we are targeting foreigners. It's all happening through these subtle shifts in focus, and that's what makes it so potentially dangerous. It's hard to see, hard to point to.
And that brings us right to the heart of this whole thing, the invisible contract itself. It's built on a really fundamental difference in legal standing that, honestly, most people just don't get.
So the key idea you have to wrap your head around is something called administrative permission. For a foreigner, your visa, your very presence in Japan, it's not a right that you own. It's a conditional approval that the government has granted you and that they can, at least in theory, take away. And this is where you see the huge difference. For a Japanese citizen, their constitutional rights come first, period. But for foreigners, it's flipped. Your obligations, following the rules, come first, and your permission to be here comes second. This simple flip changes absolutely everything.
Now, once you understand that distinction, it helps us take apart three really common and frankly pretty dangerous assumptions that a lot of foreigners in Japan live by.
We're going to break down these three big ideas: the legality assumption, the equality assumption, and the permanence assumption. Let's dive into that first one.
So, a lot of people think, hey, as long as I follow the law, as long as I don't break any rules, I'm totally fine. My status is secure. You know, the idea that if it's legal, I'm safe. But is that really true?
Well, the reality is a lot trickier, because your status is a permission, not a right. A government administrator can use their own discretion to make a call that hurts you, even if you haven't technically broken a single law. Just being legal isn't the shield you might think it is.
Okay, on to the second assumption. This one feels like common sense, right? You see a rule, and you figure it applies the same way to everybody, citizen or not. But does it actually work that way?
Nope. The reality is that a rule that seems totally neutral, let's say a new way you have to file your taxes or some minor city ordinance, it doesn't have an equal impact. For a citizen, making a mistake might just mean you get a fine. But for a foreigner, that exact same mistake could be seen as you failing to meet your obligations, which puts your permission to even be in the country at risk.
And now we get to the big one, the one that trips up so many long-term residents. The idea that having permanent residence, or PR, is pretty much the same as being a citizen, you just can't vote.
The reality, though, is completely different. Permanent residence is still just a form of administrative permission. It can be taken away. It doesn't have the same constitutional protections that citizenship does. Yeah, it's the highest level of permission you can get, but at the end of the day, it's still just a permission.
So let's pull back from all the legal stuff for a second and ask a simple question. Who does this invisible contract actually affect in the real world?
Because this isn't just some abstract problem for political types. This affects everybody. We're talking about students who are trying to build their future here, engineers who are powering the economy, workers who have put in decades of their lives, and entire families raising their kids here. And that right there is the human side of all this. The vast, vast majority of these people aren't asking for anything special. They're just trying to build a life. And to do that, you need to know that the ground you're standing on is solid. You need predictability.
So after all that, where do we land? What's the main thing you should really understand about where things are right now? Look, the situation isn't a total crisis. Japan, like any country, has every right to set its own rules, and it can absolutely tighten them without completely destroying the trust of the foreign community that adds so much to the country.
But, and if you remember one thing, make it this. It can only do that fairly if the people making the policies truly get this fundamental difference. For a citizen, a law is a rule, But for a foreigner, that same law is a condition of their entire existence in the country.
And that really leaves us with one final thought, one question to chew on. A system that kind of depends on people just quietly absorbing mistakes, a system that relies on people being too afraid to complain because of the consequences, is a system like that really stable for the long haul?